This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate that. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I am the host of the show. And this is our guest, Dr. Sunji Phillips. She is a clinical psychologist and gracious enough to come here once a month to share with us information that will help us with our families in every situation. I think even if you have a challenging situation or not, it works for everyone. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. So glad to be here. And I just want to make one quick correction. I am a organizational psychologist, but I know I've done like 20 years of clinical work, and that's where. So basically, with my master's, I did clinical work, and then when I went on to get my doctorate, I decided to do organizational because I wanted to do a lot more training and support, and just hands-on, that sort of thing. So yes, I know that you know me as clinical because that's what I've always done.
Well, this is a reality show, and I can be corrected. Thank you for that because,
Okay. Yes.
I want to give out the correct information.
No, that is fine. That's fine. I have a long history of clinical work, working hands-on, developing out behavior support plans and analyses, and you're correct in one sense. I've been doing it for far longer than I've been doing the organizational piece. But today I'm here to kind of talk a little bit about the workers and the staff and the parents, and I want to kind of identify different areas that workers can use, or different avenues that employers can use to support their workers when providing supports and services to individuals with
So when you say workers, you mean employees of the employer? Or?
Yes,
okay.
yes, absolutely. I want to kind of look at their role because one of the things that, I've kind of asked the question, what are the hot topics right now in our field? And one of them is that it's almost impossible to find staff. We're
You hit the nail on the head. There's help wanted signs everywhere. Especially in a field, in your field.
Absolutely. And one of the problems is that, we're just coming out of the great, and, I know we've had the recession and the depression, but this has been the great resignation, where during COVID, so many people were resigning their positions because they had the benefit of being able to stay home and receive funding or resources, to support their needs. And then you had those that were just afraid. You had COVID and nobody really knew what was going on. So I was safer at home than I am going into the community. And it was all understood because it was something unprecedented. We had never seen anything like it before. We weren't aware of it. So now all organizations are trying to jump back in and figure this thing out. Now, how do I get staff in? And there are so many organizations. As you know, I work from Georgia to Connecticut along the East Coast, and every agency that I work for are struggling with not having enough staff. And how do we support the needs of our youth and our children, our adults with developmental disabilities? So, and then just as quickly, I had one organization down in Georgia. We went down there and we did this massive hiring, and we brought in maybe 6 or 7 staff, and the very next week, 4 resigned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think one of the reasons for that is that during COVID, a lot of folks lost their jobs. And so what they were left with was survival. How am I going to survive without this job? And they went out and started their own businesses. And so they don't have to rely on going to the office and, so many other things. A lot of people, and I used to watch TV, and I watched this one show where this one family had to relinquish their house, so they sold it or foreclosed or whatever, bought a trailer, started their business, lived in it, educated their kids and everything. So people went into survival mode, and now they're still they have their own businesses and they don't need all these jobs. And I think that's one of the main reasons for all these staffing, vacancies.
Absolutely, because you now have people that are able to create their own hours, their own shifts, and you with
That's me. I don't work on Fridays.
right, but it's a beautiful
Right.
thing. It's a beautiful thing, and so you have, and I don't know if I'm able to call names of places, but like Uber and Lyft and things like that, where you create your own hours. If you're not a morning person, I'll sleep all day and I'll get up at midnight and start doing some driving. And they're finding that at the end of the week, they're bringing in the exact same money that they used to going into facilities and working with supervision and bosses. Our millennium generation, they are selling everything online. You can buy it, and now the malls are closing up, the stores are closing up because there's nothing that you can't buy online. And so, everyone, is having like a little pop-up shop and things of that nature. And the reality is it's very helpful. We all buy into the small businesses, and then that kind of leaves organizations like the ones I'm talking about, dealing with individuals with developmental disabilities or youth in foster care system, leaves them scratching for employees and what are we going to do, because now we're bringing people back in and now we're trying to regulate them again and tell them that you have to do these things, and it's been a real struggle.
Right. So what are we going to do for our children and workers and everybody that needs, this special service?
So one of the things that I definitely recommend is there has to be some benefits to bringing in youth or to coming and working with you. The days of not having efficient benefits is sort of over for employees. People are looking for 401Bs or 403Ks. People are looking for days off, and they're looking for benefits packages that they can't receive in their own business, because that's the only thing that would really drive that audience back into the workforce, in an organization such as those that we've been discussing. Because other than that, if I'm making the same amount of money and I still don't have any benefits and any time off, any days off, I don't have a pension plan and things like this, I might as well do this for myself.
Unless they meet me first, because I can set up all those things.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
For small businesses, I can set that up. But anyway, I want to stay on point here.
Yeah,
with
no.
So.
You are amazing. And you know
Yes.
what? That is a good point, because then it does also offer the opportunity for an insurance agent to kind of jump into these small businesses and give them those things that they need.
Exactly. For example, myself, and I'll just sidebar here for a minute. I don't have a 401k, so I set myself up with a financial contract called Universal Life Insurance, and I put as much money into it as I possibly can. You're allowed to put in up to 7 times your net worth, and every single penny that you put in there as premium, when you retire or whenever you wish to, because there's no restrictions, you can take it out 100% tax-free. And so that's the type of plan that I have. Along with that, I have an amazing death benefit. So if something, happens along the way, then my family will, be the beneficiaries of a very large sum of money, which means I'm probably worth more dead than alive. Now that I think about this as I'm talking. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. You can continue. I just thought about that. That just all came to me at once.
No, that is absolutely fine. Absolutely. Because I think that is a good point to assist, especially the new entrepreneurs and the new leaders. But, the problem still remains with what are we going to do in the programs and in the facilities that need the support of the staff. So, I wanted to talk a little bit today about some things that we can do to retain staff. And the number one thing is workforce development training. What do I want to say about workforce development training? I want to say it is so extremely relevant and important. And I know a lot of organizations, tend to kind of skimp on workforce development training because it's the one thing that's not highly regulated. So, whoever the governing body is, they would generally say you have to have these trainings in place, mandated reporter, like they give you a little minimum amount of trainings that's needed. And so what does that look like? Each agency is able to develop it for themselves. So they go and they give you the paperwork for mandated reporter. You got to read through it, and at the end, sign, we'll give you a certificate, and the training is done. But the problem comes when they have to use the skills that should be developed through the training. And now you have staff that are feeling a little bit as though they are not prepared to do the work that they're supposed to. And it's a very uneasy feeling to be left in a situation where you're monitoring, young people or adults, and you don't feel equipped to do the job that's been put before you. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of doing workforce development training. And, the number one thing is it increases productivity and the performance of the staff. So when I know what it is that you expect me to do, and I know what it is that you have laid out for me to do, and I can perform in that way, then I feel better about the work that I do.
Right. Right.
I feel like it's okay. I can get up this morning and in my head I'm planning out like some of the things that I can do. And that's great because one of the most important things that an organization can do is to empower their staff.
Yep.
To make them responsible, but then also empower them and make them accountable for the work that they're doing. So now we give you what you need so that you can perform, and now we're making you accountable.
Exactly. And the trainee could also add to this by reporting, well, we decided we were going to do A, B, and C, and I felt like they could just, give input. This didn't work. They can add to the training. They could increase it. They could be involved with it, which would empower them and make them feel better. Training is a key.
You hit a
really
really good point.
It really is.
Because I'm going to tell you, this was a conversation that we, myself and an organization, just had because they've done what we call NEO, New Employee Orientation.
Okay.
And they would always do it like initially the first 3 days, and then they had on-the-job training the next 2 days. And that was their 5 days of orientation. But, I met with them and I sat with them and I helped them to understand that may not be the best way to do it for exactly what you said. I just sat here for 3 days and you just poured into me all of this information, 24 hours worth of training telling me what to do. But I never sat in the presence of a youth in foster care or an individual with developmental disabilities. So everything that you've poured in,
there's
definitely a learning curve. So we're only picking up the first few,
maybe 10%. First,
and then the last, but all of that other stuff, that it's getting lost somewhere in between there. So now I'm on the job and I'm supposed to perform in the ways that you have trained me, and I'm not performing. And what's the answer of the administration? Well, she was trained.
And that's it. I got a signed form right here. I can show you.
That's it.
I did my job.
She was there. She is trained. Right. But is it effective? Is the training that we're giving effective? And is it meaningful? Because I like to say I have not trained anyone if they're not trained.
Exactly.
So if they are not trained, I can't honestly say that I've trained them.
Exactly. If they can't do the job. So, training is the first thing I would do and I used to be a customer service manager, so I would ask them, have you ever done this before? Or have you ever, like in my field, have you ever worked with anyone that needed long-term care? How was that experience? And then you learn from each other. You'd be surprised what each individual has to offer to training. And
that is a part of the input. That's a part of it. It's about sitting together in a group. And I always recommend that they even pull someone in, an existing staff, even though it's new employee orientation and we're training them on different skill set, a new skill set, and more than likely. But we want to bring in someone that is seasoned in doing this. Let them sit in a class. So now we're building off of each other. And then not only that, but I propose always that you don't do it consecutively, but do 3 hours every morning and then let them spend the last half of the day in the program. Because now they can apply some of what they've learned to the actual setting.
So you're saying do the verbal portion, like the first 3 hours, and then hands-on the computer or the person or whatever. Oh,
Right,
yeah.
right. You do the practicum, and then you do the in-person training, and that's the best way to do it.
I think so.
Organizations, many have set up like 6-week training, and it's every Monday you're in training, and the rest of the week you're in the program. And that works marvelously, because when they come back that Monday, now they're kind of saying to the instructor, well, let me tell you what happened when we were there. How
Right.
should I handle this? Next time that this happens, what should I do? And now you're getting a training that is effective to the work that you need to do. And when you go back in, you now have some idea of how to manage this behavior that you've seen. But when we're just pouring into you for the first day, the first 2 days, first 5 days, and then you go out, you are not remembering
No.
that they said, this is what I should do in this situation.
Especially if you're a person like me, I'm a visual learner. I need to see something.
Absolutely.
You know, you got to illustrate it for me before I really get the full grasp of it, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another important reason for employers doing training is that there should be a uniformity of work processes. And so if I am an owner of an organization and I run 4 group homes, if someone goes into each one of my group homes, they should recognize that these are all the same. If I had to take a staff out of group home D and put them in group home A, they already know how to work because we have a uniform process by which we perform. And so now you have everyone working in a uniform manner instead of each house working in a silo to the other one with different forms and different applications and different ways of performing. And that's very important for an
so everyone is
organization.
cross-trained in different houses or in different departments, and that's so important because you never know, life happens, something could happen
Absolutely.
in house number A, as you put it, and you may have to replace them with someone from house number D.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense. So how would you apply that, you know, in like a home? Like when your child, like say I'm the parent of a child, of a
Okay.
challenged child, and I don't have to deal with all these different personalities, just my one kid's personality.
I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
One of the things that, and what you said is spot on, because in this season, we're not developing programs for children coming out of school like we used to. Once upon a time, when children aged out of school at 21, there was a program they would go to. You know, you would have a list, and the parents would go and visit these 7 or 8 programs, and they would make a decision as to which program, and the program would be like, yes, we've got 2 more kids coming in. Those days are over. They're not building programs the way they used to. So now we have families whose children are aging out, and they have no place to send them during the day.
So the parents need to learn.
And the parents are working, and they don't have the time or the understanding to train staff, so they can bring staff in. You know, the state will give them a budget, what we call a day budget, and they'll give them a budget that's self-directed, and they'll be able to pay a staff to come in, but now who's going to train the staff of what they need to do?
In your home
In your
setting,
home.
because that's a whole different ballgame right there. It could be a teeny weeny apartment, it could be a huge house. You know, sometimes you have to work with the space, the person within the space that you have. That can make a huge difference on a person as well.
Right.
They could feel claustrophobic. You just don't know.
And now we have parents that are finding they're having multiple staff in their home, because they have the one that's coming in during the day, then they have the ones that come in the evening, then they have weekend staff. So now I've got 3 sets of staff working with my child, and everyone is trying to teach my child how to unscrew this cap, but everyone is doing it in the way that they know how to do it. And you know, so this one is teaching them just leave the bottle there and turn it. This one is saying you got to hold the bottle, you know, and
okay.
And for you and I, it may not, you know, you'd say, oh, well, just, you know, show them this, or just tell them to unscrew it.
Right, okay.
But for a child with autism or developmental disabilities, each step becomes a part of a task analysis,
yes.
and it's extremely important, because if today I tell you to open the bottle by tilting it and holding the bottom in my hand, and then tomorrow I tell you just put it under your arm and unscrew it, that is a big difference, and that can definitely interrupt the learning process.
Yes,
or
it can.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you've got parents that are being forced to train employees that they've brought in how to manage day-to-day tasks and day-to-day. And for the most part, the parents love their children. They are, great caregivers of their children. But one of the things that they are not, are teachers and trainers.
Right.
So now,
And the only reason I know, I'm sorry, the only reason I know a little bit about that is because I told you I've been challenged. And one thing I can say to all the parents out there, if you do nothing else, you have to be consistent. The same blue bowl that they eat cereal out of. At least that was my case. As a non-professional, I just kind of like tripped into it.
Right.
I was kind of thrown into it, and I had no choice. I had no one to train me. My son taught me how to train him, I guess I should say.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
That's exactly what happened,
Yeah.
because I didn't have any Brysum associations that I could tune into, which you have your webinars on Monday in
Wednesday,
English.
yes.
And then on Wednesday is bilingual.
Spanish, yes.
So when are those? Monday, what time?
10 to 11:30.
Okay, and we're going to say this again at the end. So 10 to 11:30 on Mondays. If you're English, you want to tune into Brysum Associates.com and just check it out. And then on Wednesdays, if you're bilingual, you want to do the same thing. This is free information. I didn't have that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have that. That is good training. Okay, so you can continue.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure we get that out there. And plus, we're going to be on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube, just in case you don't have anything to write with.
And I know I'm like relaxing here and fading out of the screen, and I've got to keep focused here because I'm like having a whole conversation now. Yes,
Yeah. That's what this is all about. It's a nice, we enjoy, you're so compassionate, passionate about giving this information to the community. This is free, helpful information. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps you manage your family much better.
Absolutely.
And to me, I put God first and my family next, and then everyone else. So if you can, I feel like when it comes to just things on earth, God is always first in my life. If my family life is okay, then everything else will fall into place. Whether I'm making money, not making money, or whatever. I just feel good about everything else coming after that will fall into place.
Absolutely.
And it gives
Absolutely
you make
agree.
a great organizational psychologist.
Yes, you can.
So go ahead, continue.
Okay,
I'm sorry, because
no,
we only have 28 minutes here.
Okay.
But this is great information. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. So I want to jump in with what you said, because you mentioned the parents, and you're right. So just basically from what I've already said, it will do the same for a parent in their own home. It will produce, they will help the staff to be more productive, because I know one of the struggles that parents have when they have staff in their home is that it's a home that the staff gets a little comfortable. They may come in their comfortable shoes and, lay back a little bit. Oh, he didn't want to do this, or he didn't want. So now the parents have to figure out how to develop a technique to encourage him. It's not okay to ask, but now let's go a step higher and encourage him to do it. So I asked you, do you mind moving that water bottle out of the screen? And I'm like, oh, I don't mind. But then you now have to say to me, I would like for you to move that water bottle out of the screen. And okay, no problem. So it's a little bit of a difference there. And so the parent has to be able to teach the staff how to use the language, the difference in the language between asking and encouraging.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you ask me, do I want to get up out of my bed and do some work? Not likely. But if you say to me, okay, Sonji, it's time to get up. There's work we got to do. So, do you want to get up now, or I can give you 5 more minutes? Because that's your choice. And those are the only 2 choices. You can either get up now, or I'll come back in 5 minutes. And so this is what the parents are now having to do, to demonstrate to their staff how to use this process. And again, working in a uniform way, because now they want every single staff to do the same thing. If they're teaching them washing the dishes, then they have to teach them the same skills. So every staff needs to be prepared to train to wash dishes in the same way, or to do the food shopping or whatever it is. And then when you train staff, whether it's in the home or whether it's in an organization, it reduces the amount of supervision that's needed. What is more important than having a staff in your home and you don't have to watch them every moment while they're performing? Right now, there are so many parents.
Priceless.
It is. Because now you get a break.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I get to relax for a
You get a
minute.
break. If you can trust that the staff is able to perform properly, then now you get a break. The staff can come in and you can say, okay, great, you got them? Okay, I'm going out, I'm doing shopping, I'm going to get my hair done, whatever it is, your life goes on.
Okay.
Okay. Your life goes on because now you've trained staff in how to perform, and you know that they can perform with a certain level of independence, so you don't have to sit guard and keep an eye and see what they're doing and is this right, and redirecting them.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, it's about training.
Think about freedom.
Training. It's very important. And it may seem like it's time consuming. It's easier to just do it yourself. But if you train people how to do it, it will provide a benefit on the back end. So then that way you'll have more time for yourself, more relaxation, and you can trust who you've put in position.
Absolutely. I agree with that. It's a little, training is a little bit, I won't say counterproductive, but it's a little bit more work at first.
It's because a lot more work at first.
Okay, I don't want to scare nobody, but
a lot more work at first.
Let's put it out there. It's a lot of work. Could be a little counterproductive because you won't get as much done. But and on the end, like she said, on the back end, you're really going to appreciate it because you're going to have freedom. We can go get our nails done, our hair, and all that other stuff. Listen, we have about 30 seconds left, Dr. Sanji.
Okay.
So what would you like to wrap up with?
I'd just like to say thank you for everyone that tuned in. If you have any questions, you can reach me at BrysonAssociates.com. And you have my number there, and we're available to help with staff trainings in the home, in the businesses. And yeah, tune in to our parent training. I think that's it. 15 seconds, your turn.
Thank you. Thank you again so much. We will be here again next month giving more information, and we really appreciate that. So thank you very much for joining us. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.